Hello and welcome back to Everyone's Entitled to One Good Scare, the ARKTOBE's exclusive deep dive podcast into the Halloween franchise. We are back to talk about Halloween 2. I am Matthew Blanchard. I'm one half of the Brothers Blanchard, your hosts on this journey. With me, as always, is my brother,
Patrick Blanchard.
And we just had a very busy weekend, right? We dropped for you the original deep dive talking about Halloween last week. And then we partnered up with the Blanchard brothers, our cousins, to sit down and do a sort of a hot take on Halloween 2018, the David Gordon Green sort of soft reboot that reimagines the franchise, kind of as if the movie we're gonna spend the next hour and some change talking about never happened. But if you haven't seen David Gordon Green's movie, if you haven't listened to that other podcast, do not worry, because this is a spoiler-free space where we're going to be talking about 1981's Halloween 2, the original sequel that is completely erased by the timeline of the new movie. So that almost makes it sound kind of futile, but it's still part of the canon, so we're going to discuss it.
I mean, it's a vital part of two separate timelines.
Yes. We will... It's so nice that we recorded a single podcast for the Halloween franchise where we didn't use the word timeline. And that was the previous one. That was the Halloween one. Because now we're going to be using that word a lot because there are multiple timelines, folks. This is the first one where Halloween
has a sequel
and proceeds into the rest of that evening, following the events that transpire in and around the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And then we have a continuing timeline off of this one that features Jamie Lee Curtis's, Laurie Strode's character's daughter. And then we have another one that proceeds without a daughter and replaces that daughter with a son. So that's two separate timelines so far. Then we have a movie coming up next, after we talk about Halloween 2, that's completely unconnected to everything.
Yep.
Then we have a complete reboot that throws Jamie Lee Curtis out of the way and starts fresh. And that is our fourth timeline. And then we get to the Halloween 2018, the Hate-teen, as we've been calling it, which is an altogether fourth timeline. Or fifth timeline. Yeah, sorry. Fifth timeline, which ignores all of the previous movies except for 1978's Halloween. So, confused? I hope not. We're going to try to keep it as clear as possible and not add to the confusion any, and we're going to try to clarify any places where you might get confused.
And if you're listening and you happen to be a comic book fan,
yes,
it's way easier to follow than the continuities of DC or Marvel.
As the resident DC expert at the ARKTOBE, I challenge that to a certain extent. The Halloween timeline can be a little dense because there are so many rebooting of the exact same event. But moving forward, we are going to talk today about 1981's Halloween 2, the very first sequel, which is sort of in a unique position because we have two producers, Irwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad. And Mustafa Akkad has sort of leveraged rights with a company he's been working with for a long time, specifically Universal.
Yes.
Dino De Laurentiis specifically. So Mustafa has sort of a plan, along with John and Deborah, to spin the Halloween franchise out into sort of a Twilight Zone anthology, where there will be a Halloween-themed movie every year.
Yep, I've heard this.
And Compass International is not capable of doing that. Trancas International is not capable of doing that. So they have to go where the money is. And where's the money? At a studio.
Yeah.
And Mustafa has ties with Universal. Now, the plan is, so they'll make a Halloween-themed movie, and if it's good, it can have a sequel. Fine. Any of them can have a sequel. It's not a problem. But we'll keep making them. We'll keep making them. We'll keep making them. So the first thing we got to do is we got to wrap out that Halloween story, right? We gotta finish that one up.
They don't got to finish it. It stands alone. John doesn't want to do this.
John doesn't want to do it, but Mustafa Akkad does.
Yeah, but
and Universal does.
Mustafa and Universal.
And Irwin Yablans likes money.
Yes, and Mustafa and Universal aren't the precipitating agent, as it were.
No, they're not.
It's Yablans.
It is Irwin Yablans.
Yablans says,
but Mustafa really wants to cash in on the broader moving forward franchise.
Yes.
The anthology that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill pitched to him. Irwin wants to, ironically enough, Irwin Yablans wants to do what eventually Mustafa Akkad will want to do.
Yes.
He wants to cash in on the Michael Myers of it all. He wants that second dip into the pool.
And
now Mustafa Akkad will eventually come to
love
Michael Myers and agree with Irwin Yablans about the long-term viability of that character. Irwin Yablans will later go on to eschew the notion of any sort of film beyond Halloween as being unnecessary. I didn't think that was, a good idea. I didn't do, but you started this.
Well,
you pulled us in that direction.
In the latest round of interviews that have been included in special editions,
the Blu-ray special editions that came out 3 years ago.
When they're talking about Halloween 2, Irwin Yablans says, sometime in and around the release of Halloween, he got John Carpenter to sign a contract saying he would do another movie for Irwin Yablans, another Halloween.
Yes.
And that's what the crux of the issue was, is another Halloween.
Right.
And John's making The Fog. He's doing other things. And Irwin's like, I got a contract.
Well, it's also worth noting that there is a parallel moment happening in that he has had a conversation, though nothing has actually been signed, with Mustafa Akkad about another Halloween. But that other Halloween is a very different shape.
Yeah.
It's a very different... Irwin Yablans has an agreement to make a Halloween. And Irwin Yablans believes that Halloween is a sequel to the movie Halloween featuring Michael Myers. Mustafa Akkad is structuring a deal, hopefully to get signatures on a contract to do a franchise of Halloweens. And somewhere these two... This unstoppable force and immovable object have to meet.
And I believe it meets in Irwin Yablans being the one to pull the trigger.
Yes.
Because he's got a contract, and by God, this is a litigious country.
Yes, it is.
So he drops a lawsuit, or I don't know if he actually completely drops the lawsuit, or just starts it in motion and lets John Carpenter know that he is going to be brought suit on
if he doesn't follow through on the Halloween movie as promised to Irwin Yablans. But what kind of spins out of that is it doesn't become a Compass International production independently done. It spins into Mustafa's overall goal, which will fund both Halloween 2 and Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Which is why both of those films are Universal Pictures. And in the third movie, we'll actually get what John and Deborah pitched. We'll get a move away from Michael Myers.
Yes.
So it's a very unique situation in that there was going to be a second film named Halloween, produced by John Carpenter, produced by Deborah Hill, produced by Mustafa Akkad, long about 1981, 1982, anyways. Had Irwin Yablans just sat down and shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Shut the fuck up, not the fucked. Sorry. But he was going to get cashed in on that, most likely.
Yes.
Like, everyone maintains that he was likely to get...
All the deals were in place.
All the deals were in place. He was going to get included in those deals as sort of the inventor of the franchise, by the person who first came to John and hooked John into Mustafa. He was going to have a producerial credit. So if he hadn't sued John Carpenter, he would have gotten what he wanted.
Yeah.
Which was more money.
And it would have abided by the contract that John signed.
Exactly.
But
instead...
He jumped the gun and pulled the trigger.
Yep. Because he wanted another Michael Myers movie, and he wanted some cash.
Yeah.
And what we got out of that is a Halloween movie that is kind of toothless. Because the writer of the movie didn't really want to be writing it. And it was expected that he was going to direct. And he was like, I don't have time for that shit. I do not. So what we're going to do is we're going to hire my protege, Tommy Lee Wallace. He's going to direct it. And then they go to Tommy Lee Wallace and they're like, you're going to have the opportunity to direct the sequel to Halloween. The Michael Myers sequel to Halloween. And Tommy Lee Wallace says no.
Well, first Tommy Lee Wallace says, I could totally get on board with this. We'll set it like 5 years later.
Well, yes. He has a pitch, but John already has sort of a structure that he wants.
Yeah.
And Tommy Lee Wallace wants to basically reinvent the wheel and make it something else. He wants to kind of live into that niche that John wants to be in, of making it a new story, a new approach. But that's not what he just got sued for.
Well, Tommy Lee's is a new approach, but would include Michael Myers.
It would include Michael Myers, but it wouldn't be spiritually what Irwin Yablans kind of demanded in the suit,
which is
contentious.
Because I would have liked to have seen 5 years later Michael Myers coming out of the woodworks again to finish what he started on this girl for no reason. And she's in college. She's just now getting over her post-traumatic stress, which was not the terms used because it was 1981.
Right.
But
shell shock.
It would have
been called at the time.
In very many ways, and we'll talk about this in several weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Lee Wallace wanted to make Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Yeah, in many ways. Or, if you really kind of strip it down to its basic core, he either wanted to make Rob Zombie's Halloween or he wanted to make Halloween H2O, and there's a thin sliver of a line between what those two movies are. I mean, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And that's something we're going to talk about a lot moving forward, is that thin line between those two stories is where three stories live. And the newest one charts similar territory, but not necessarily in the same way as either of those two.
So Tommy Lee Wallace, he's all excited. He's like, yeah, and I got these great ideas, and we're going to do this.
And John tells
maybe
him
we'll what? I want to set it in this dorm tower on campus.
It's the same night. We pick up. It's set in a hospital. We just pick up right where we left off.
And this is Wallace. But John, you already made this movie. I don't want to make the movie you already made.
No. We're gonna pick up right where we left off.
No, it's John.
Nope, we're gonna pick up.
Yeah, it's the same.
Right where we left off.
Yeah, it's the same movie.
It is the same movie.
I don't want to do that. I want to do something. If I'm getting out there for my movie, I want it to be something, not John Carpenter's Halloween.
Well,
I can't direct this movie, John.
And so, as stated, Tommy Lee Wallace steps aside. Tommy Lee Wallace, who had been the production designer on number 1, had devised some of the wonderful shots of number 1, had played the shape in number 1 at a couple of points.
Had edited the movie.
Right. He was the editor of Halloween. Like, this is the guy who would be the appropriate choice to follow up. Even if it had been just the movie we got, I think it would have been improved by having been directed by Tommy Lee Wallace.
I believe so as well.
So they have to look for a new director. Who's it going to be? Who are they going to find?
I don't know. It's spring 1981, winter 1981. It could be.
Could be anybody.
I mean, I was 5 years old. I have no idea who it could have been.
Well, I mean, it's you bring up an interesting point, though. It's winter 1981. All the directors. Sorry, I'm opening up a Ricola, folks.
Ricola.
All the directors who are going to be shooting pilots for the fall have already been contracted to direct pilots for the fall.
Yes. A thing known as pilot season.
Mm-hmm. Those contracts are already written. So, TV directors who are looking for work are, well, they're fucking looking for work.
Yep.
One such television director is Rick Rosenthal, who has some TV credits, and I believe, one feature credit to his name? One or two?
I don't even know. I haven't researched Mr. Rosenthal in this regard.
Well, maybe we'll make that some homework. Maybe you'll research Rick Rosenthal when we talk about him again in Halloween Resurrection.
I mean, this is the beauty of the modern age. You can keep talking, and I can just go into IMDb.
That's true.
Like
or I can do it, and you can keep talking.
No. I like.
You like being the research guy.
You're the host.
It's a team effort. It's not like one of us is in charge and the other one's not. But yes, Rick Rosenthal is brought on board to direct. And there's instantly sort of a push and pull between both the studio's view of what the movie should be, Rick Rosenthal's view of what the movie should be, John Carpenter's view of what the movie should be, and Deborah Hill's view of what the movie should be. And John and Deborah, who are usually fairly in sync, are a little bit out of sync in the production of this film. John just wants to get the movie made, and he wants to make sure that the movie is the most commercially viable Halloween movie it could be for the era.
Yes.
Which means drafting on the sort of gore trend that has come out of the Halloween imitators. Most notably, Friday the 13th. Now, Rosenthal claims that he's looking to make effectively the same picture that John made. He's looking to make a bloodless movie. But in other interviews, he says that he's looking to make a more gory attempt. So Rick Rosenthal's sort of an unreliable narrator about his own involvement in this movie.
As a director, he had one television credit prior.
Okay. Fair enough. So what results is sort of this tug of war between charting the same path that John followed in 78 of mood and story versus sort of the Friday path of setting up a group of people in an area and then watching them die. What we get leans more toward the latter than the former.
Yes.
Much, much closer to the latter than the former.
Although in many ways, it's John and Deborah's script.
It is.
So they moved in that direction.
They did. But we also know that some of the really gory stuff was introduced in reshoots.
And from what I've heard in the research, also by John.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
John was on board with this.
Yeah.
Rick Rosenthal currently, or of late, has maintained that he was sort of against it.
Yes.
But in the 80s, he was saying he was for it. So, going off of what they say now, it sounds like if we're to take them at their word in the 2000s, the late 2000s, Rick Rosenthal wanted to basically remake Halloween.
Yes.
And John Carpenter wanted to make it bloody as shit.
Yes.
And that somehow the Halloween 2 that we get is a compromise between the two. And here we are.
I don't know. And then
I don't know who to believe. That's one of the things about this movie is that even the stories about the making of it are so murkily told that you can never really know who did what and who said what and what is where.
And
how much of the footage that is shot in the reshoots was really just for the television version of Halloween, because that's another piece of it.
Yeah.
There's a big swath of reshoots that John Carpenter has given money to do that is both for Halloween 2 and Halloween 1.
Yes.
In its NBC
premiere.
Premiere right before the release of Halloween 2. And some of it's stuff that is supposed to connect the two in a way that, logically bridges the two stories. Some of it is literally just more gore. So it's all very murky in the timeline of what comes where and who did what and who directed what.
And that one adds a whole character and a kill to the beginning of the movie that sets off the movie.
Right, yeah. So it's this really murky origin for a very almost shockingly straightforward movie.
And in many ways, I understand Rick Rosenthal's saying what he said then and saying what he says now.
Yeah.
Because it was universal.
Right.
And that doesn't mean as much now.
No.
But in the 80s, when Universal Television was everywhere.
Oh yes.
So if you wanted to continue in the industry, you really needed to.
And if you wanted work in television,
yes,
for Universal, you went with the company line, and the company line was, say that you wanted it to be more like the original, and the creators changed the idea.
Yeah.
It's a way to kind of shift the blame, we didn't screw up the Halloween movie. We're Universal. We didn't do that.
We just gave you the money to make it.
Right. Let John Carpenter go and say it's our fault all he wants. See, our director says no, it wasn't. It wasn't our fault. Because that's kind of what it became in the mid '80s to the early '90s, is this sort of pissing contest over who can say who fucked up this movie. Because this movie is kind of regarded as a fuck up in the industry as a whole.
My favorite is John Carpenter going, yeah, I saw the first cut of Halloween 2. It was about as boring as an episode of Quincy.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Which is his justification for coming in and shooting new kills and reshooting kills.
Yep.
Now, I maintain that while there is a lot of stuff that is murky and you can't tell who did what and who said what and all of this, it is really easy to tell who directed the kills in this movie.
Yes.
Because, and if folks, if you've not noticed this, please do watch Halloween 2 again and look for this. There are two different masks. There is a mask that is a very close approximation of the original mask. It's based off of a Shatner mask, It's cut down in similar ways. The eye holes are about the same. The hair is netted about the same. But it's on a different person's face. Then there's the original mask, where the eye holes are a certain shape, and the hair is done a certain way, and it's instantly recognizable as the 78 Myers mask. You can see it. Looking at the film, you can tell the difference between the two. Maybe it's in the way the mask is painted. Maybe it's in the way the hair is done. Maybe it's in the fact that Dick Warlock is wearing the mask in the footage that was shot by Rick Rosenthal, and Nick fucking Castle is wearing it in the John Carpenter footage, which is what I believe is the case.
Or somebody
Some
else.
people maintain that it's the same mask. This is not true. John Carpenter has gone on record as saying the original mask came on set with me.
Well, there's also the fact that there were 4 original masks.
True.
So, but
John had the beauty mask, the
but
one that would have degraded the least.
because they also used Nick Castle's mask. And Nick Castle no longer has a mask because they used his mask in the fire scene.
Oh, that sucks. But I'm willing to bet you that the degradation of the latex, when it looks similar but not quite, that means it's probably one of the originals that is broken down, or one of the new ones that was struck for this. But there are moments where you can clearly see that's the original. That's one of those. And I believe that's when John is directing.
The one that Dick Warlock wears the most is Deborah Hill's mask,
Right.
which she kept in her bedroom loose under her bed in a shoebox, an open shoebox.
Right.
Deborah Hill was a heavy smoker, and the nicotine penetrated the mask.
See?
Which added to the degradation, yellowed it a bit.
Right.
And then the fact that there is just so much grime in this movie,
Right.
that ends
Gradually ruins that mask.
and the fact that movies are shot out of order really ruins the mystique of this being the same night.
Yes. But as you see them, and I'll point them out as we talk about it, as we get to those scenes, there are scenes where clearly you see what looks like an identical mask to the one from the previous movie. And when you see that, I suspect, dollars to donuts, those scenes were shot by John Carpenter in reshoots. Also because those scenes tend to be, well, I don't know, a little gorier. Also a little moodier.
And the camera's a lot less locked down.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, contractually obligated, John writes a script, and Rick Rosenthal directs that script.
Yes.
So let's talk about that movie. We're gonna try to do as little bit of plot corner as possible, just like last time. There's a little bit more of it. You're not probably. I'm not going to say that you guys aren't as familiar, but there are members of the audience who are not as familiar with Halloween 2 as they are with Halloween 1. Halloween 1's ubiquitous as fuck.
Oh, so before we do that,
Yeah.
the big thing, we didn't get Tommy Lee Wallace. We didn't get the protege. It's more of the night he came home. The only brilliance in more of the night he came home is they went back and they rehired Dean Cundy.
Oh, of course.
So the look
Is mostly the same.
is mostly the same. Which leads to a lot of people for decades going, well, it's just one movie broken up. It's not, folks.
No.
Don't believe the hype.
It is certainly not one movie in 2 parts. It does have the same cinematographer, but you'll notice that there are stark differences between what John Carpenter does with a camera and what Rick Rosenthal does with a camera. Rick Rosenthal does a lot of, I hate to say it, television I Love Lucy style coverage. There's a master shot. There's a close on the character. There's a 2-shot. There's a 3-shot. That's it. Again and again and again. That's the coverage.
And
break it into coverage. Do this, and that's a good way to move quick.
Also, I don't know if this is a thing. You're more into this side of what I'm getting ready to say, but I firmly believe there is a major difference between late 70s film stock and early 80s film stock.
There definitely is. There definitely is. And
this movie looks like that slick early 80s film stock.
Yes, it is. And I'm not sure what happened. If it was a different type of emulsion that they started using, or just the processing kind of changed.
Yeah, I don't know, but
there's a clear difference between about 1979 film stock to about 1984 film stock.
Yes.
There's just this period where it looks inferior. It may be the lenses that are being used to shoot. I don't know. There's something, but about 1984, we kind of catch back up.
Yeah, but it's ubiquitous. I feel
Cross board. I'll agree with that.
like I've been asked on the internet, well, do you feel that Halloween 2 is an 80s film? Like, which one's more 80s, Halloween 4 or Halloween 2?
Halloween 2.
And I'm like, well, depends on what type of 80s you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, but B, Halloween 2 is firmly sometime between 1980 and 1984.
Yep. Yes.
Because of the look of the film. And then I got responses like, what are you talking about, man? And I'm like, go watch movies from the early 80s and you'll understand.
Split screen Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 and compare and contrast.
But this
see what I'm doing.
This movie opens with a return to Halloween.
Yes, a recycling of the last, I want to say about 6 minutes.
If that. Like, it's quick. And this new crane shot of the Wallace house.
Yes.
That
this
looks like
beautiful crane shot of the Wallace
house. It's beautiful, but it also looks, I can't tell if it's actually the house or a model.
Right. I believe it's actually a house.
Oh, I think it actually is, but there's something about the stock and everything that makes it look like a model.
It does, but that crane shot ends with the lockdown shot of the house at almost the exact same location in the frame that Michael comes backward out of.
Yes.
So I think it's just the crane shot that establishes the set piece for the fall.
Yeah.
And they do that crane shot, they lock it down, and then we see the rest of the movie repeat itself, and then that fall happens.
Yes.
So we see Halloween again from the moment Laurie Strode tells the kids to leave, basically.
Yes.
Loomis comes in, shoots Michael again. This time, there's a bit of a gaffe in the audio because now we have this reversal angle where we show Michael being forced backward onto the balcony of what is now the front of the house, not the back of the house,
yes,
like before. And then he falls, and there's a reverse ramp-up walk, and he falls onto the ground. But as you count the number of shots that Sam Loomis fires, there is someone made a mistake because there are 7 bullets fired. Clearly countable. You cannot miss it. There are 7 shots fired.
Folks, he's firing out of a 6-shot revolver.
And he will spend the rest of the movie, the rest of Halloween 2, saying again and again, I shot him 6 times.
He does.
It is a line of dialogue that he will repeat again and again and again. But he actually shot 7 fucking times. And Loomis does that thing he did. He gets to the balcony. He looks over. He has this look on his face. I knew this would happen. It was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. Blah, blah, blah.
He looks down. He does.
He does.
And but this is what I like to refer to as the Michael Looney Tunes imprint.
Yes.
Because now there is, if you've ever watched a Looney Tunes cartoon, when somebody falls, they leave an imprint of their body in the ground.
Yes. Yes.
There is a Michael Myers imprint.
There's now a dew imprint. And Sam goes running downstairs. Goes running downstairs to look on the front lawn, sees the Michael Myers imprint, puts his hand in it, finds some blood. Dude comes out. This dude who comes out because he heard gunshots and Sam Loomis did not come out of his fucking house when Laurie Strode was screaming her head off.
Yes.
Just saying, had this guy been a little bit more attentive, none of this would have happened. Well, I mean, Annie still would have died, but
And Linda.
And
Bob.
But the police would be here already. Still. Moving forward. And he has, I think, it's still my favorite line. And it's, this is another, I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. I love that. I don't know why I love it, but I always have. And then we get our second franchise pumpkin opening. Our second of 3.
Yeah. Our second of 4.
That's true. It's true. We do get
We get a crazy one in number 5.
and we do technically get a shot of a pumpkin getting stabbed in Halloween H2O. But we have 3 that are literally a shot of a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern throughout the entire opening sequence.
Yeah.
There's this one, there's Halloween 1, and there's Halloween 3.
Well,
Halloween 3 is a bit of a tweak on it, but
actually Halloween 5 is
it's the making of the jack-o'-lantern.
it's from
But
the,
it cuts.
and it cuts back
and forth.
between it and
right.
the credits.
There are 3 where it is a static shot of a thing, or a push in on the same thing, in different. I don't want to give away Halloween 3. You know,
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. But this one we get the pumpkin opening. It's a slightly different jack-o'-lantern. We push in on it, and it breaks apart, revealing this eerie skull hidden at the back of it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Me neither.
I mean, is that at the inner core of Halloween, there's this Lord of the Dead, Sam Hain, known as Michael Myers? Is that what they're trying to say?
I guess. Maybe. So, Michael evades Loomis and the cops. He goes over to Mrs. Elrod's house because, that's a good place to break in and get a knife. And Mrs. Elrod is an elderly lady. Her husband is sitting at a chair watching Night of the Living Dead. Mrs. Elrod is making probably the most disgusting sandwich in the history of the world. She's making a ham sandwich, and she's spreading both mayo and mustard on it, which is just... but yeah, he steals her ham cutting knife. And then...
Well, folks, if you happen to like mustard and mayonnaise on your ham sandwiches, please do not be offended by my co-host.
Who would put both mustard and mayonnaise together on a ham sandwich? It's one or the other.
I'm trying.
It's one or the other. Pick one.
Or both.
Pick a side.
Or both.
No. Pick a team. You're either on team mustard or you're on team mayo. You're not on team mustard mayo.
I mean, if you're going to do both, though, don't do both on the same side.
Like Mrs. Elrod does.
I mean, like, put that mayo on one loaf of bread.
And the mustard on another. I'll accept that. I'll accept that. But she literally spreads it on the same slice of bread. They are not meant to mingle those two flavors. It's no.
Anyway, the alley between houses that he goes to reach
Yes.
there, I swear it may be the same alley that is used in Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street.
It may well be.
Because I know he shot around that area.
They shot in the same basic area. It's not the only time that I will question whether something from a Nightmare movie actually was used first in a Halloween movie.
Yep.
But yes, it goes down this alley and it looks very familiar. We've talked about that alley before. We'll talk about that alley again, probably. So the Elrods see a news report about Michael Myers. So Michael's like, I'm ditching this space. I'm going to go leave, folks. I'm on the news now. And he goes next door.
What I do enjoy about him in the Elrod's house is the way, this is one of the, you can count it, folks, like 3 times. This is one of 3 times he feels like the Shape. in this movie.
Yes. He goes next door where, for literally no logical reason, he kills young Alice, who is having a conversation on the phone. He kills her in a jump scare chest stab where he just literally leaps from the bottom of the frame and stabs this woman.
Seriously, John, what were you thinking?
And there's this, blood splatter, which immediately is more blood than ever appeared in the first movie.
Yep.
And, we move on. There's no connection to the rest of the story. She's just dead to die.
Yes.
2 EMTs show up. Jimmy and Bud, played by Lance Guest and Leo Rossi. And they load Lori into an ambulance to take her to the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, where we get the shot of Razor Blade.
Oh, this is like this is the hardest thing for me to watch in the entire series.
It is. Yes, I agree. I understand. There's a shot in the 1980s. If you were not alive at the time, folks,
it was scary. Like every Halloween, we get these warnings not to take apples because there's razor blades in them.
Yes, because people put razor blades in apples. We were also told that our parents had to check our candy because they could put razor blades in candy.
But definitely in apples.
Definitely in apples. So here's this kid in a pirate costume.
And don't take stickers that have Walt Disney prints on them because those are LSD.
Right. Now, looking back, there has been published research showing that there's not a single case of this actually having happened in the 70s and 80s in America. It didn't happen. Nobody was putting fucking razor blades in people's apples on Halloween. It didn't happen. But it was such a panic, a hysteria around it.
It really was. I was a little kid trick-or-treating back then.
Right.
And it was scary. Like it was so pervasive
yes.
in schools and warnings that I'm 43 years old and
you're still terrified.
And I'm still terrified of this.
Yes. And that fear is reinforced by sequences like this, where this kid in a pirate costume is coming to the hospital with his mom because he has a fucking razor blade stuck in his tongue, piercing his upper and lower lip.
And then the angle's like cut into the top of his tongue, upper and bottom lip, and into the roof of his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh. And the blood is dripping.
Yes.
And it looks
such a realistic effect.
It looks exactly like I always imagined it would if I bit into a razor blade.
Yep. Okay, so they take Lori inside to be looked at.
If they could maintain this level of fear and gross-outedness, I would love this movie.
They can't.
And this is from an apple, man.
It's over, man. It's over. There's not going to be any... It's over. There's no more fear. There's nothing left to be scared of in Halloween.
I'm good.
All right, so Lori's doctor, Dr. Mixter, was hanging out at the country club with Lori's parents. And is a little too drunk to be performing surgery on Laurie Strode, who has had her arm sliced open. She's been stabbed in the shoulder. She's broken her ankle, or sprained her ankle severely.
Yes.
This guy's drunk. This guy's super drunk. And everybody seems fine with it. I mean, not fine with it, but fine with it. They're going to cover for this dude. Particularly the head nurse, Mrs. Alves. So then we cut back to Loomis and Sheriff Brackett, who are driving around looking for Michael. They're kind of arguing. They see a kid walking down the street who looks a lot like Michael Myers.
This isn't a man.
They're having conversations about the nature of evil, shooting him 6 times, yada, yada, yada. It's the same. It's on a loop. It's the same stuff we heard in the last movie, folks.
But it's not written as well.
It's not written as well. It's not as good. Sees somebody running down the street, looks like Michael Myers. The doctor, not the cop, the doctor hops out of the cop car and points his gun at this thing that he thinks is Michael Myers. It could be a kid. Spoiler alert, it's a fucking kid. Who dies not because Loomis, just shoots him, which would make sense. No, for some reason, out of nowhere, a cop car just speeds along and slams into him, pinning him to a wall and then exploding. because explosions. Now, the only interesting thing to note here is who is driving the car.
Yes.
Because while Michael Myers does not kill this character, Dick Warlock does.
Yes.
The stuntman who plays Michael Myers is also the deputy who rams into Michael Myers, or the pseudo Michael Myers,
Yes.
who turns out to be Ben Tramer. Ben Tramer, referenced in Halloween 1 as the guy that Annie was trying to fix Laurie up with. So Laurie's not getting her homecoming date no matter what. Dude went out to drink with Mike Godfrey, and he never made it home.
Nope.
And Annie was going to call him after in the morning to fix everything. Annie's not there to call him. He's not there to get the call. Poor Laurie. And that's when Deputy Hunt shows up, and he very inarticulately informs Sheriff Brackett that Annie's dead.
It's one of the kids. It's
Annie.
It's Annie.
And they get in a car and they race off. This is where we get a before they were famous cameo of Dana Carvey.
Man, that dude likes to hang around with Michael Myers.
Yeah. He started hanging out with Mike Myers before he started hanging out with Mike Myers. This is the moment where Brackett kind of leaves the movie and is replaced with Deputy Hunt. Because basically, Sheriff Brackett can't do any sheriffing because his daughter's dead.
I got Annie's dead. Now it's Hunt's show.
Yep. Then we get this sort of beautiful tracking shot through town. This is the first of the... John Carpenter clearly directed this.
Yes.
Because there's a beautiful tracking shot through town, and we see Michael Myers, and he's lit amazingly. He looks like he did in the first movie. The camera moves. Throughout the whole sequence, it establishes, the town square. It establishes Michael heading toward the hospital. It establishes one of the nurses who is late for her shift at the hospital. And it establishes Michael getting to the hospital. It moves. There's pace to it. It's like it belongs in a whole other movie. And it concludes with this shot of Michael's face, or the Shape's face. Because he's still kind of the Shape in this sequence.
Yes.
This is the other one. This is one of the three.
Yeah.
With his face in the side view mirror of Pamela Susan Shoop's character's car.
Yep.
And damned if it's not the mask. Like I was talking about. That one's clearly the one that looks like the one from the first movie. Hair in all the right places and everything.
I believe... if we have anybody out there who buys official masks,
yes,
Trick or Treat Studios puts out the official licensed masks for Halloween 2.
Yes.
And the shot that he's talking about, where you see the mask in the mirror, looks like it is the basis for the Halloween 2 hospital mask.
I wonder why they call it that.
Yes. But it
right.
looks... and. I haven't really seen the shots where it looks like the mold was based off of.
Right.
Until this last watch that I did.
Gotcha.
And I was like,
gotcha.
Freeze? Yep. Continue.
So we did all this sort of plot exposition, bump, let's move everything forward sequence. Basically, this was our turn from Act 1 into Act 2. The first question I have, though, now is why is Haddonfield Memorial on such a lockdown at the moment that Karen shows up?
Well,
because she needs to be buzzed in by Mr. Garrett, but the kid with the fucking razor blade in his mouth didn't. It sort of establishes a weirdness here that I'm not sure makes sense entirely.
Oh yeah, I got that later on too in the finale of it.
I suspect you do.
Like some people being able to get in.
Yeah, like some people being able to open a door that is clearly not locked, and then it's suddenly being locked for the next person who tries to open it.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Not only why is it locked down, is why is this hospital understaffed?
Right. Oh, I mean, it is a small town. So, Jimmy, good old Lance guest, has a bit of a puppy love crush on Laurie Strode, so he keeps showing up at her hospital room to kind of talk to her. And Mrs. Alves, the tough head nurse, keeps kicking him out.
Yes.
Bud, Jimmy, and Janet hang out in the break room, and there's some talk about Michael Myers and somebody having seen Michael Myers the day before. It's a chance for Bud to be snarky and Jimmy to be sort of aloof, and us to introduce Nurse Janet as kind of clueless and kind of a bitch. But that's about it.
Yeah.
And then Janet walks away. Nurse Karen shows up. She's obviously having sex with Bud. They sort of plan for their next tryst. And here we are. We have now done all of the pre-story. We've gotten all the setup out of the way.
Yeah.
It's now a Friday the 13th movie almost. Now it's just set them up, knock them down. We now have an A story and a B story. The A story is the Michael Myers hospital slash fest, and it is a slash fest in a way that Michael does not do in any of the previous, did not do in the previous movie, will not do in any of the the ones coming after it, except maybe number 5. It's not purposeful. Usually Michael's kills are purposeful.
Yes. Even when the movie around Michael is horrible,
The kills are still purposeful.
their kills are purposeful.
Yes. And the B story is Loomis and Hunt looking for Michael Myers in all the wrong places. So
Loomis has a through line.
yes.
He's always looking in the wrong place.
Exactly. So Michael cuts the phone lines. That leads to the first kill, which is Mr. Garrett, the security guard, goes on an extended investigation of why there's no power and why there's no phone lines. He leaves a radio with Janet, who doesn't understand how the fucking radio works. It's his fault because he didn't show her. He goes out and explores until he gets a claw hammer to the head.
That's 2 authority figures with claw hammers to their heads.
In the same year.
In the same year, folks. Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Yep. Bud and Karen make plans to get it on. Laurie has weird flashback dreams that are part of those reshoots I was telling you about that tie to the NBC release of the Halloween 1 television cut. It establishes something that, surprise, surprise, is going to be the ending of this movie, because she's having these memories being told by her mother that she's adopted.
I'm not your mother.
And she remembers seeing this broody kid in some sort of a weird white room.
But what's interesting is she sees herself like you often do in dreamy flashbacks, and that child that she sees looks like she's about 12 years old.
Yep.
Laurie Strode herself is 17 years old, and I don't know about y'all, but when I was 17, I remember what I did when I was 12.
Yes. Well, I mean, unless you're repressing it for some reason.
During this time,
now John Carpenter admits that what he reveals later he came up with after a 6-pack of beer.
Yes.
And the writing here kind of fits that theme.
And it also fits the time period. It was the 80s. It was the reveal. It was the familial connection. It was
the era of I'm your father.
Yes. We also get a jump. This is one of the times we get a jump over to the B.
Yes.
We get Hunt and Loomis heading towards the Myers house,
yes,
where there's a full-fledged riot situation going on in the yard. So much so that it doesn't look like it's the same yard.
Yeah. Even though it is clearly the same house.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like the house moved or something.
We also get the surprisingly huge Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
That does not present itself as a Chekhov's gun.
Not at all. It's actually brilliantly played. I will grant this. Because what happens is Deputy Hunt's a smoker.
Yes.
And Sam Loomis isn't. Like, we haven't actually seen Sam Loomis smoke.
No.
In the first movie or this movie. But Hunt hands him a cigarette, hands him a lighter.
Well, first he lights it.
He tries to light the cigarette for him.
But Sam's just not having any of that and talking.
And then he just hands it to him. Just leaves him with that lighter and that cigarette. And then they go away from the riot scene.
Yeah.
And that lighter never changes hands. It stays in Loomis's hands, which is just... It's real subtle, actually.
Like, yes.
Like, this is a deft piece of storytelling, whether it was directed by Rosenthal or Carpenter. It's pretty clever. Yes, indeed. It's clever.
So then we're gonna hop back.
However, hold on, didn't we miss one? Because isn't it at the end of the riot scene, after handing that cigarette, that one of the kids comes up to Hunt and says they're looking for Bennett Tramer?
I don't know if
He's
it's
a boy about 17.
Yes, I just don't know if this is where it all starts to fall apart for me.
The Bennett Tramer reveal here that they're looking for Bennett Tramer, who is about 17, follows the scene in the morgue.
Yeah, we skipped the scene in the morgue.
We see in the morgue where they're looking at the charred body of what looked like Michael Myers and was Bennett Tramer.
Yeah, because they're like the coroner's like it's a young man,
possibly about 17 years
18.
old. And it's the reveal of the two kids who say they're looking for Ben Tramer. He never made it home. He left about an hour ago. He's 17.
He was wearing this weird mask.
He's wearing this weird mask. And that's what causes Loomis to throw down the cigarette that Hunt has given him.
Yes.
So that's where we get the suspicion on the part of Hunt and Loomis that they need to keep looking for Michael Myers, because they actually thought that they'd blown him up.
Yes.
But now this is what inspires Loomis to keep looking. Yeah. So, we need to jump back over to...
Karen and Bud.
Yes! Karen and Bud, they're getting groiny in the hot tub. And Michael turns up the heat. And Bud is sent to go turn the heat down and gets garroted.
Killed in the background in
shadow. It's actually it's rather artfully done.
Yes.
No, I'll grant that. And then Karen, played by Pamela Susan Shoop, takes her towel off. We see her tits as Michael shows up behind her, and they get a little weird.
He's pretending
to be Bud, but she's like licking his fingers, and they're clearly very dirty.
Yes.
They've got to taste like blood and some really nasty stuff. Like, he's not very clean, man. And Michael grabs her, and in what is a very effective stunt performance between an actor and an actual stunt artist, is a scene where Michael keeps dunking her face into boiling water.
Yes.
And boils off her face, basically, and drowns her at the same time. It's beautifully portrayed. The effect is gruesome, like really gruesome. Back over in the B story, Michael is believed to have broken into a school.
Yes.
So Loomis and Deputy head that way. Let's see. In the school, we'll just...
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a picture. There's a drawn picture of a family with a knife sticking in a sister. And there's the bloody word Sam Hain written on the chalkboard. And
I love the other deputy who comes up. Well, what's that? It's gibberish. And Loomis goes, "No, it's Sam Hain."
Sam Hain. It means the Lord of the Dead, the end of summer, the festival of Samhain. Because Loomis, is the exposition dude.
Yes.
That's what he does. And while he's giving exposition about the festival of Samhain, where they would burn people alive to portend the future and all this wonderful stuff, that's when a car pulls up in front of the school.
Yeah.
And a car with a blinking light. It's obviously a cop car of some variety.
Yes.
And a woman shows up. And there's this great moment where this woman speaks to Dr. Loomis. Dr. Loomis looks at her and says, "Oh, I didn't recognize you."
Loomis is filling in for the audience.
Loomis
here.
is definitely filling in for the audience because this is Marion Chambers, the character from the very opening of Halloween 1. Loomis saying he doesn't recognize her is trying to remind us who the fuck she is because she's being inserted into this movie well past the midpoint. Problem is, he says, "I didn't recognize you," but they don't have a follow-up where they say who she is.
And it,
So if you don't put it together, you don't put it together until the next scene.
And I mean, in the Halloween
Right.
universe, it has been at this point like 27 hours.
Yeah. It has not been that long since he was in a car with her. For the audience, it's been 3 years.
And when she was in that car with him in Halloween, she's in your classic nurse outfit.
Yes.
Here, she's not. Her hair is different because, well, it's 3 years later.
Yeah. Right.
And, but like, we don't recognize her.
But she's been sent on the orders of Dr. Rogers, who is the head of the Smiths Grove Warren County Sanitarium, to collect Sam Loomis and get him the fuck out of Haddonfield.
Yep.
Because he doesn't want anybody from their department anywhere near the city itself. And Sam's like, "He doesn't have the power to order me to do shit." And she's like, "Yeah, but the governor does. There's a marshal out in the car. Sorry, time to leave." And so he does.
So he does. But there's still more killings.
There's still more killings because Jimmy has found Lori is catatonic. And everybody... Yes. She's catatonic first.
Yes.
And everybody's fans out looking for...
Dr. Mixter.
Dr. Mixter, yes.
Or
Everybody
Miss Alves.
goes off... Everybody spreads out looking for people twice in this movie. The first one is when they're looking for Dr. Mixter. And then when they can't find Lori because she left a room, they do it again. And it's literally 3 minutes apart.
Yes.
So everybody scatters to go find Dr. Mixter.
Yep.
And it's Janet
who
finds him.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Mixter, this is definitely a John Carpenter scene. This is one of them gore scenes. Dr. Mixter has taken a syringe to the eyeball.
Yes.
Through the iris. Yay! And Janet kind of spins him in his chair and slowly reveals him in this shot that is just kind of jarring. And then Michael just stabs her in the head with a syringe of his own.
Well, this is where we get the third shape.
Uh-huh.
Because
he's revealed out of the shadow, just like in the stair sequence in Halloween 1. Exactly. And he stabs an empty syringe, fully withdrawn, so it means it's full of air, into her brain, and then plunges it in so that the air goes into her brain. Ugh.
And people say Michael's mean-spirited in the later sequels.
Right? Okay. So then Michael goes looking for Lori.
Yes.
And finds her. Finds the room. And stabs some pillows. Because she's not there. She ran away. So now everybody's looking for Lori. Because what happened to Lori? Jimmy, who is out looking for people, he manages to go into the operating theater, one of two. It's important.
Well, he sets a plan with Nurse Jill.
Yes, he gets to Jill and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go to the sheriff's station. You go to the sheriff's station. I'll stay here and find.
I'm gonna
people."
take the East Wing again.
Right, because he has now discovered that Lori's not in her room.
Yes,
and he wants Nurse Jill to go do the rounds, check on your last group of patients, make sure everything's fine, get out of here, go to the sheriff's station. I will look for Lori. And Jimmy goes off looking for Lori, goes into the hospital, the operating theater, where he finds Mrs. Alves' exsanguinated corpse.
Yes.
She has been turned sideways. She has been bled out. Her blood is all over the floor. Jimmy sees that. He turns to kind of leave the room and slips on her blood and smacks himself right on the ground.
Jill goes out to the parking lot.
Yep.
To take her bug.
Yep.
And drive off.
But Michael has slashed all the fucking tires.
And he's done other things.
He's done other things. We don't know what exactly.
Because the bug doesn't start.
Yep.
And in the reveal of the slashed tires,
yep,
there is fluid at the rear of the bug where the engine is.
And she looks around and she notices that the tires are slashed on every car.
Yes.
So she runs back inside. Lori is conscious. Barely. And she is hobbling through the hospital, trying to get away from Michael. She's aware Michael's there.
Yes.
She has put two and two to fucking together. Nurse Jill sees her, runs toward her to try to, save the day. And that's when Michael pops out behind her, stabs her in the back.
Lifts her up.
Lifts her into the air.
On a scalpel.
And there's this moment where she's kind of hanging off the scalpel. And then the clogs that she's wearing just drop off of her feet. And then Michael drops her to the ground. It's a very effective kill.
Yes.
Yes. Then Lori runs away from Michael very swiftly, or as swiftly as she can. They run through the boiler room, which takes them down below. She discovers the dead body of Mr. Garrett. There's a run to an elevator. There's a tense scene where she's trying to get the elevator doors to close before Michael gets there, but the doors don't close fast enough, and oh my God, it closes just in time.
Yep.
And she goes up to the first floor, and she runs out, and she gets in a car and hides there.
Yep.
And then Jimmy comes out, and she's hiding in Jimmy's car. That works out well. And Jimmy gets in the car, he looks down, he sees Lori. He's like, oh, okay, and then he passes out. His head slamming directly into the horn.
We're gonna flash back to the B story, which has shifted now.
Because Loomis and Marion have been traveling with the marshal, and Marion has revealed a piece of important information. There was a sealed file about Michael Myers. Did you know that? Did you know there was a sealed file?
No, I've seen everything.
Nope. There was a sealed file. It was about the Strode girl. That Strode girl was Michael Myers' sister. 2 years after Michael Myers killed his older sister, the Myerses died, and she was adopted by the Strode family. And the Strode family asked that the record be kept sealed.
Well, don't you see what he's doing? He killed one sister back in '63, and now he's after the other.
And that is when Sam becomes unhinged. He pulls his gun out. He points it at the marshal. He's like, well, first he asked, what did they do to her? Where'd they take her after we got separated tonight?
Well, I assume they took her to the clinic.
Then he pulls the gun out and is like, where's the clinic? Take me there. And the guy's like, I can't do that. I got orders. So Loomis has what is my favorite line, because he has his fucking gun out and he points it at the passenger side window and says, what is it you people do? Fire a warning shot, right? Blam! Blows out the window.
And then we cut to
the car just spinning the fuck around.
State trooper goes, yeah, I'm going along with this.
Yep. So Jimmy's unconscious on the horn. The horn is blaring.
Lori's
freaking out because she knows that's going to draw Michael Myers.
God damn it, that thing is going to come after me again.
So she pulls Jimmy off the horn and then climbs out of the car and starts slowly crawling her way toward the front entrance of the hospital. When all of a sudden, this marshal's car pulls up.
Yes.
Out steps a federal marshal, Sam Loomis, and Marion Chambers, soon to be renamed Marion Whittington. And they walk inside the fucking hospital. And she's crawling, she's trying to get her voice to get their attention, and she's like, help. And they get inside, the door closes, and she screams, help.
Yes.
And we cut instantly over to the other side of the building, where her scream of help has alerted Not Sam Loomis inside,
No.
but Michael Myers outside, who starts stalking toward her. And
So
she gets up and
she limp runs because
Yeah.
she's still injured to the hospital door that Sam Loomis, Marion Chambers, and the Marshall just went in.
just walked through 30 fucking seconds ago.
And
They split apart to go check different areas of this deserted hospital.
And now she can't get in the same door.
Right. She's
Like it's
pounding-
suddenly locked.
It's locked. She's pounding on it. Sam Loomis rushes to the door just in time to open it and let her inside. They back away. He draws his gun. Everybody gathers together in the lobby. And there's a plate glass door standing between them and Michael Myers just fucking walks through it. Just steps through it. And it shatters around him. Even though he's not really capable of, like, he's not moving fast enough.
No.
It's all magic.
Like, I mean,
He's a magic killer at this point.
I've walked into plate glass doors at full speed.
Whomp.
That shit hurts. Trust me.
Yeah.
But this is he's through the door. This is no deterrent. This is Sam shoot first Loomis.
Oh, yes.
And he shoots and drops Michael.
Again. So Michael falls down. Loomis tells Marion to go use the radio in the marshal's car and call for help.
The marshal's getting ready to go down, and he's like, he's dead. And Loomis is like,
He's
no,
like, no, he's not. He's still breathing.
He's still breathing. Marion goes to the car. Apparently, Michael stops breathing, which is enough to lure in the marshal.
Who gets his throat fucking slashed with a scalpel.
Guess what? Michael wasn't dead.
Of course he's not dead.
In fact, the response is Lori going, why won't he die?
So Michael chases Lori and Loomis through the hospital. Loomis leads Lori to the operating chamber, the one right next to where Mrs. Owls is dead.
Marion managed to get off a call for help.
Yes. But that's kind of the last time we see Marion.
Yes. No. We will see her again. I saw her in the finale for the first time today.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But we will not see her as an active agent of the film at any further point. She gets her call off, and then it's just Loomis, Lori, Michael inside the hospital. And in an operating theater. Loomis has two guns, his own and the one he took from the marshal. He keeps the one from the marshal and gives his gun to Lori. Michael forces his way through the door into the operating theater. Sam shoots at him, but Sam's out of bullets.
Yes.
And he gets stabbed deeply with a scalpel.
Yes.
Michael starts stalking toward Lori, who has kind of put herself in a corner. She pulls up the gun that same gun that Sam shot him with at the end of Halloween 1. Shoots him twice. In the fucking eye.
See,
Lori is strode as a crack shot.
I maintain.
She shoots him elsewhere in the head, and he's just sort of bleeding out that hole.
Yes.
There's no entry wounds elsewhere in the mask. I've heard this argument.
Well, it's really the only way to explain it away for later movies.
It's the boogeyman.
But
he's the boogeyman.
Yes,
that's the explanation.
And the other reason why
the crying blood shot is gorgeous.
Well, see,
I mean, it's a brilliant image.
Well, see that,
but it doesn't make any fucking sense.
And well, the reason why I maintain that, like, she shot up into the eye hole, and we just didn't see it blasting out of the top of the roof because it didn't have the effect. But and here's why.
That would have gone through his brain.
No, because it grazed the angle. It grazes the brow.
You're attributing a lot of room.
And the reason why I actually attribute to this is because of the failing of the special effect. Because you can see the blood start coming from above the eye when it pours down.
Yeah, I believe he was supposed to have been shot in the eye because this was supposed to be the last movie.
Yes.
But don't make excuses for it.
And then the special...
Don't cover their tracks for them. They didn't pay you money. You didn't write Halloween 4. You don't need to explain away the events of Halloween 2. You got shot in the fucking eye. Twice. Once in each eye. Laurie Strode is a crack shot.
And then they grow back into separate timelines.
Because he's the boogeyman. He's the boogeyman.
And the failing.
Okay,
of the
so she
special effects.
shoots him either somehow in the head, and there's no entry wound elsewhere in the mask, or it's a magic bullet that goes up through the mask and then out the top of his head, or out the mask and out the top of the whatever. He gets shot. He bleeds from the eyes, and he's blinded.
Either with the fact that he has no eyes, or it's filled with blood.
So he cannot actually see Laurie Strode to kill her. So he's moving toward her by the sounds she is making. Sam Loomis figures this out, so he turns on some ether, creates a noise. Michael turns around and starts moving toward that. Laurie recognizes that he's now getting closer to killing Sam Loomis, so she does the same thing.
Because while he's doing this, Michael is slashing wildly with a scalpel in his hand.
Yes. So Laurie turns on some stuff, and then Sam, thankfully, moves over to the big oxygen tanks and turns those on.
And get gone, get out.
Get out now!
And Laurie gets out.
Laurie does. She blows out, and then
the first time I saw this, I'm like, I don't understand what he's doing. What? I get the distraction.
Right.
Because I didn't pay attention to Chekhov's gun.
Right. I caught that the first time. Like, I figured what he was doing.
I didn't.
Okay. Even at, 17, I pieced it together.
I was surprised because I forgot about the damn lighter.
I had not forgotten about the damn lighter. So Sam looks Michael in the bleeding eyes and is like, "It's time, Michael." And sparks off the lighter that Hunt gave him, blowing up the operating room and Mrs. Alf's body in the operating theater next door. Poor Mrs. Alves. She's not going to get buried. Which is okay, 'cause she wasn't very nice. Laurie manages to get far enough away that the explosion does not harm her.
But it does throw her to the ground. Folks, that was not actually intentional.
No, it threw Jamie Lee Curtis to the ground.
They overpacked it. They overpacked the explosion. It was not meant to be that forceful.
Yep.
But we think it's over.
It's over.
There is a column of fire.
This isn't
boiling fire.
This is a Friday. This is a Halloween movie. It's actually over. They don't do those weird psych out things like they do in them Friday movies. Oh wait! Oh my God! He's walking out of the fire. It's a fucking Friday the 13th movie. Jason's alive. Jason's alive.
It's just funny because all those films haven't happened
yet. That's true. So yes, Michael comes
just the one
stalking out of the fire, and you think, "Oh my God, he's on fire!
He's on fire! He's gonna fucking catch up to her and choke her to death while he's on fire!"
And he just falls over.
Oh, thank God!
And we watch his mask start to melt.
Sorry, Nick Castle.
Yeah. And then we see Laurie getting wheeled out and put in an ambulance. By Marion Chambers. Okay, fair enough.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know.
Other than the fact that there is no hospital staff to do it.
Well, Sam is dead, so she has to take care of her.
And the rest of the hospital staff as well.
Right. Except perhaps Jimmy, who is just unconscious in a car. And in the television cut, he's alive. He's in the ambulance with Laurie.
In fact, that was the original cut.
The original ending. Yeah.
That was the ending that he was shown when the actors got to see it.
Yep.
So in Lance Guest's mind, he's like, Jimmy's still out there, folks.
Unless, of course, Jimmy was Jamie Lloyd's dad.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
We never learned Jimmy's last name. What's Jimmy's last name? Oh, you don't know. It could be Jimmy Lloyd.
I hope
It's Jimmy Lloyd.
Folks, I've been on the internet for a long time, and I have seen this argument played out upon pages and pages
About
and
whether or not
pages.
Jimmy is the dad of Jamie Lloyd.
Yes.
I mean, Jamie, it's a family name.
Yes. So they put Lori in the ambulance,
Yes.
and it dries off
Drives away
into the
this-
morning fog.
It's not so much morning fog, I think, as smoke
Well,
billowing out of the hospital.
I think it's kind of
I
both.
think it's both, but
because it's so it continues well into the shot.
Well,
Like-
smoke does kind of cling like that.
Yeah, but I think it's a confluence where they both happened and timed. Like, there's no other time that.
Well,
this
I don't
would've
think they
worked.
actually burned the hospital location, so
Yeah.
it's probably on the day it's real fog.
Yeah.
Or at least a fog machine. But yeah. So it drives away, and then we queue up Mr. Sandman,
Mr.
which is the music that started this movie and ends this movie, as we watch Michael Myers' mask melt away. Like melt away.
Folks, this is over. You
In
cannot
a-
come back from this.
In a burn that actually harmed the stunt man, because the fire suit that Dick Warlock is wearing has zippers on the arm, and the metal in the zippers got so hot in the burn that he burned his arm.
Yes. After this, they changed how
How they do burns.
fire suits are made.
Yep. See, I mean, so that's a Michael who got horrifically burned.
Yes.
And we have a Jason who got horrifically burned before he was Jason.
Yes.
And then you have Freddy, who is the product of being horrifically burned in character. Horrifically burned is a thing, and it sucks. And these guys are...
And it's a staple of the horror genre.
It is a staple of the horror genre.
There's one where the killer actually uses a flamethrower.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, don't watch it.
Yeah, that sounds
I'll
terrible.
tell you. I'll tell you to watch The Prowler. I'm telling you not to watch this one.
Fair enough. So that, folks, is Halloween 2. Like he said, it's over. It's done. There is no sequelizing this. Michael Myers is fucking dead. So is Dr. Sam Loomis. The only survivor is Laurie Strode.
Yep.
And Marion. And possibly Jimmy, if you go with the TV cut.
And Deputy Hunt.
And Deputy. Oh, yeah, and Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah, he's out there still.
He's out there. He's just really upset because his daughter's dead.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't be? So yeah, there's not gonna. It's over, folks. Goodbye. There's not gonna be a Halloween 3.
I mean, it's,
Oh wait, but we talked about it already. So
yeah.
So who's gonna come back? It's gonna be Michael. They're gonna bring Loomis back.
No.
We're gonna-
No. He's dead.
Okay, so Donald Pleasance is not coming back. Jamie Lee Curtis will come back.
No. She's done with horror.
Okay.
She's all about. There's a line from Scream about what she's about next.
Oh, she's going legits?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, how are you gonna fix it? You're gonna make a whole new movie, and we're gonna talk about that next time. But we have some wrap out stuff here.
Yep.
To round the horn real quick. What is, in your opinion, the best kill of Halloween 2?
The best kill. I've got. I'm massively partial to Karen.
Okay. Is it the lascivious nature of it, or is it the burn?
It is. It's not the lascivious nature of it. It's the fact that I know for a fact that water was not hot because I've watched the behind the scenes and heard the water was actually cold.
Right.
They just had a bubble machine going, and just the movement between the stunt performer and the action, interspliced with the makeup progressing as the burns get worse.
Right.
I'm a fan of this for the technical makeup reasons.
Okay, that makes some sense. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go much simpler. I'm gonna say Nurse Jill. Because the death of Nurse Jill feels the most like a Halloween kill. Feels the most like something that would have belonged in the previous film.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's mine. Because it feels the most like it belongs in a John Carpenter Halloween movie. I mean, all the other stuff's good. The gore effects are good. The blood effects are great. But this is the most pure, most inspired by the original movie. What about your least favorite kill?
My least favorite kill is Mrs. Alves.
Mrs. Alves, because it's off screen?
A, because it's off screen. B, I do not like this character.
Nobody likes Mrs. Alves.
I want to see her get it. Like, this is a case in the movie.
This is one of those, you want it to be a Friday movie, and you want the shitbag to die on screen.
Yes.
You want Bad News Cruz to get, chopped up. And she's Bad News Cruz before there was a Bad News Cruz.
And then
I'm with you.
On top of it,
Gotcha.
This death is so intriguing. The aftermath is so intriguing.
Right.
I want to see how it happened because you do not exsanguinate to the amount that is done while you are dead. Like your heart stops pumping and the blood stops flowing.
See, interestingly enough, I didn't call it out, but we actually see the beginning of the exsanguination before we actually find Mrs. Alves. Like, we see during Laurie's dream sequences, we see this blood dripping.
Yes.
And you don't put it together until... I didn't put it together until the second time I watched the movie. I was like, that's weird. What is that? And then you see Mrs. Alves, and you're like, oh, she's bloody. And then the second time, you're like, oh, that's Mrs. Alves' blood.
Yes.
Is that an artistic choice to put it here, or is this like the one frame of it that they forgot to remove, and this is where the actual kill was?
I don't know.
But whatever it is, it's weird.
I'd like to have seen it.
Right? I could see that.
Okay.
I feel like my the worst kill for me is the Alice kill at the beginning. It's abrupt. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't belong in the movie. Unlike Michael Myers' kills, it is not purposeful. None of the kills in the hospital are purposeful either, but at least these are the people who are in the way of, who have gotten in between Michael and Laurie. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's their, it makes sense even if it doesn't make complete sense. Alice has nothing to do with any of this. There's no reason to kill that girl. So it doesn't feel like a Michael kill to me. It feels like a Jason kill. This is the one that feels like that's a, well, it doesn't even feel like a Jason kill. It feels like a, well, it feels like a Mrs. Voorhees kill, frankly.
It does, but it also, in many ways, it also is a Michael kill. The execution is decidedly not.
No.
But it harkens to the true conceit of Halloween, that Michael can kill anyone for any reason.
It does. I disagree with you. It harkens to the conceit of Halloween now, in a world where we are discarding this movie to reestablish Michael as a killer who can kill anyone. This is the movie that establishes that no, he doesn't. This is the movie that creates the whole concept that nope, he has one target, he's after that target, and whoever gets in his way dies. This is the movie that establishes that trend, and the first kill it has bucks that trend.
Yeah, I know, but
it doesn't fit.
But
it fits in the other movie. It fits in Halloween.
But
it doesn't fit in Halloween 2.
I know, but the rules established by this overall refute the entire movie before it, because he had opportunity to knock off Laurie at any time.
He did.
Like, there was nobody in between him and Laurie except Tommy Doyle.
Well, I mean,
like he spent so much.
It wasn't just in between. It was those close to. He dispossessed her of her friends before he came after her. The friends that he specifically saw with her on the street.
Bob,
I'm just saying I can make that argument.
Bob, you're just collateral damage.
Bob is just collateral damage.
So how much do you think it cost to make this movie?
Oh, the other one was $300,000, right? And this is shitty film stock. So I'm guessing like another $400,000.
2.5 mil.
What? No. You're making that up.
You got Universal Studio budget money, man.
Then why does it look so shitty?
There are multiple.
You can't answer that.
I could.
There's many reasons that money got wasted.
A neophyte director.
Right.
Shooting on the horrible 80s film stock. Not understanding how the camera moves.
Some of it must have gone up Leo Rossi's nose, I suspect.
Also...
I'm sorry, I take that back. I do not accuse Leo Rossi of having done coke in the 80s. Although he probably did. I'm just saying.
I totally don't...
I'm not saying he did, but I'm saying he might have.
I'm totally not accusing him of using film budget for it.
Right, yeah, sure. Yes, exactly. I take back my joking accusation of Leo Rossi. I'm sorry, sir. You're probably a nice man.
You were in ER.
You were, yeah.
And didn't play a douchebag.
Right. So you're probably a nice guy, and I'm probably the asshole here. And I apologize, Leo Rossi. You've been a punching bag for far too long, Leo Rossi.
So the last one, we had to estimate the film grosses because not accurate records, and I've seen anywhere reported from 47 to 70.
Right, but this one's a Universal Pictures release. We have numbers. We have hard numbers for this one.
Yes.
So what was it? What did it do?
This one domestically did $25,500,000 and some change.
$25 million and a budget of
2.5. It actually made 10 times its budget.
There you go.
Back.
That's a guarantee that we're going to do a Halloween 3.
In today's dollars,
yes,
it actually sounds impressive.
Right.
Today's dollars, it made $85 million.
Sweet. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Before we wrap out, final thoughts on Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
I used to really like this movie, folks.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I had the same thought. I was going to make the same joke.
I'm going to burn my soul here. I used to really like this movie.
Yeah, I used to like this movie. I don't anymore. Okay.
It's a chore for me to watch this movie.
I watch the franchise every year at Halloween. I'm not like you. I don't watch the whole franchise once a year, twice a year. But I tend to go through it at least at Halloween, and I go through the bulk of it, right? So I will typically watch Halloween 1. I usually skip this one because I know it by fucking heart. I think of all of them, 1 and 2 are the two I know best. Like, I have memorized. And I'll watch 4 because I love 4. I'll watch 3 because it's its own thing. I'll skip 5. I might watch 6. I'll definitely watch H2O. Like, that's my Halloween watch. Watching this again for the first time since I got the first Blu-ray that Shout Factory put out with Terror in the Aisles on it a couple years ago. It was like 2011?
Yeah.
2010, 2011? So 7 years ago.
2011.
That was like the last time I watched it. When I bought the full box set, I didn't really watch all the movies. So this is the first time I've watched it in about 6-7 years. And I was just kind of dumbfounded by just how bad it was.
Yes.
Like, I must have had some sort of rose-colored glasses about this movie because it's terrible. It's not good.
This is the movie that when I'm going through and I'm watching them, let's say, I'm going to start watching Halloween at midnight.
Yeah.
All right. Then I will have no problem at 2 o'clock in the morning after the bathroom break. I will put in Halloween 2 because I know it doesn't matter.
Fall asleep.
If I'm going to fall asleep, I want to fall asleep in Halloween 2, folks.
Right.
I used to watch this movie a lot. My first apartment, I didn't have cable. I had a VCR and the Halloween movies. I had Halloween, Halloween 2, 4, and 5.
I do believe you had a Good Times release.
I did.
Of Halloween 2.
I did.
That I purchased for you.
Yes.
By the way, I have seen those particular Good Times releases of Halloween 2 going on eBay. Same VHS, everything. for $12.50. Like, people are buying that. Like, that's common price.
Like $12.50.
Like $12.50.
So like nothing's changed in 20 plus years.
No, people are buying them for more than they cost.
Oh,
because sir, I bought you that VHS for $5.
oh, see, I thought
it was a $5 bin.
I thought it was in the $12 releases.
No.
Okay.
Today that would be the $12 bin.
Ooh.
But that was 1997 money, sir. So yeah, you could actually make a profit if you sold your Good Times VHS copy, pan and scan, green box of Halloween 2. It's amazing.
But
fucking amazing to me.
So I watch these movies a lot in my apartment, because I didn't have cable and these rabbit ear things. Folks, if you don't remember rabbit ears, I'm not going to explain them to you.
If you don't remember rabbit ears, consider yourself lucky, because
I could only get one channel to come in, and it was a channel that I really didn't want to watch.
Fair enough.
So I watched my movies, and I have overwatched this movie.
Yeah, I overwatched it, but also I discovered that I just don't like it. Like, it's just, it's an inferior product. Nothing against any of the actors or Rick Rosenthal. It just doesn't come together. And ironically enough, I will say that again about a Rick Rosenthal movie. So maybe it is Rick Rosenthal directing a feature film that just doesn't work. But I've seen him direct a lot of television that I like. So I know he can tell a story visually.
Yeah. My other thing is I when I do my run-throughs, I do a run-through.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do the H2O trilogy.
Right.
And
just watch 1, 2, and H2O.
Yeah, back to back to back to see
if it works better. I don't think
better.
It will. I don't think so. But
yeah, my closing thoughts is I used to like this movie.
Yeah.
I also used to believe in Santa Claus.
I used to like this movie too, and I've learned that I don't anymore. It's not a good movie. It doesn't have, and it's not a good Halloween movie either. Like, it's not a fundamentally Halloween.
No, it is not.
It's kind of the opposite. It's a trend chaser, not a trend setter. It's a movie that tries really hard to duplicate the success of Friday the 13th, which is a movie that in itself tried really hard to duplicate the success of Halloween. If they'd just written a Halloween movie, I think they would have been, head and shoulders above.
Yep.
If they'd let Tommy Lee Wallace tell the story he wanted to tell, I think we would have had a good movie.
Yep.
So, maybe that's the solution. Maybe in number 3, you bring back somebody like Tommy Lee Wallace. Let them do their thing.
Also, you have contractually obligated, you fulfill your contractual obligations to Irwin Yablans. You got your Halloween sequel, and I did it in such a way that, I'm sorry, we're not going back there, folks.
He's dead. It's over. We're out. And sure enough, as I just jokingly teased, Tommy Lee Wallace will return to the franchise to direct finally, and we will talk all about that next time when we come back here to Everyone's Entitled to One Good Scare to talk about Halloween 3.
Season of the Witch.
But this time we've been talking about Halloween 2, more of the night he came home. For the Ark of E and Everyone's Entitled to One Good Scare, I've been your host, Matthew J. Blanchard. With me, as always, has been
Patrick J. Blanchard.
And we are the guys who pay the late fee so you don't have to, as we deep dive franchise horror movies. Join us here next time to talk about Halloween 3.